All right. How's everybody doing there tonight? What's going on, Paul? It's been a while, my friend. Nice to see you here. SS Swartz, always first, always count on you. Hello, it's Big Chonis here, coming to you guys doing a live show today. I thought we'd check out some Bitcoin price action. If you guys have any altcoin requests that you guys want me to take a look at, please feel free to put those out in the chat there, and we can check it out. You know, it's funny, Bitcoin 17K yesterday, talked about yesterday. Bitcoin 18K today, unbelievable. Also, please hit that thumbs up button if you do enjoy my content, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, so let's kind of get down to the basics here. I'm on the 1 hour chart. You know, we were able to touch as high as a little under 18.5. And we've had two pretty decent pullbacks here. And what's very interesting is you almost had two chances to short from this, let's call it 18.2 area that came all the way down to the 17.3s, you know, basically twice there. And that's literally like two separate $1,000 moves in the price action of Bitcoin within a very short amount of time there. So we are getting, once again, we are getting that volatility that we do expect. And I did tweet this last night. I said, or yesterday, I said when the brand new candle basically opened yesterday, you know, this was only like an hour into the candle, so I wasn't really talking specifically about the candle. I just kind of felt it, that this was the day where we're going to see whipsaw volatility, and maybe a Darth Maul makes its appearance. So sure enough, we have our volatility, and I think it was a 6 hour that I tweeted there that, yep, there it is. There is our Darth Maul candle. And it's been a while. It has been a while since we've seen the classic Darth. And what that basically means is we go down $1,200, and then we basically go up. Probably didn't get as high on that, but you know, that's my point there, is we had up and down, and then we basically closed right in the middle there, and we got the volatility swings that I was expecting today because of where we are here. I mean, look at the daily, look how straight up you know, our price action has been over the past couple weeks here, parabolically moving now and advancing way above our 50, 100, and 200 MA on the chart there. And that's very important to basically see, because that consistency of this move continues, and we have a pretty defined, you know, line of support here, more or less. When we broke it, the quick double wick bottom here and reclaim of it was notable, and then the third wick below and reclaim of it was notable here back on the 4th, and we just never closed below it again. So this line, rising line of support, if you will, still remains the constant in our basically full send mode from October 18th, when Bitcoin was all the way back at $11,200, which seems very far away at this point right now. And look at the shape of our daily candle. I showed you on 6 hour that we had the Darth Maul. The daily is also showing that kind of a look too, and that's because of where we currently are here, is we basically have tested the lower range twice, tested our upper range twice, and we are basically smack dab in the middle. Now, ideally, a higher closing candle would be the most ideal, and basically from yesterday's close, which was 17,679. Any close above 17,679 today is a higher high, even if we get this, you know, upper wick rejection still holding. And that would basically be okay, fine. The bulls, you know, haven't lost that control yet. Definitely there was some selling and not ready to get above 18.4. And I'll talk about why 18.4 in just a moment here. So what we can see is, if we take this line of support and we take a current resistance here, this could potentially be some sort of a consolidation triangle over the next several days or even weeks here. To be very curious to see if we can basically set up some sort of a pattern of maybe we do some sort of consolidation in an ascending triangle pattern, okay? Or we just don't wait for that and keep rocking up here. But both of these can be in play until we fall below, you know, this line of support. And if we did fall below this line of support, the very first thing I would be looking for would be some sort of a back test of it. And if the bears have regained control, then that would basically be rejecting, and we kind of start to drift down again. And eventually we'll basically be meeting our MA50 daily chart, somewhere around, I don't know, 13.7, 13.8, maybe even up to 14K, if it's, much later on in the month here. So we can see that these are variables in the short term of where we could basically be seeing the Bitcoin price action here. We have our defined area of, defined angled line of support. We know how very far we are on higher time frames to our MAs. We go down to like the 4 hour, okay? Let's get rid of our squiggles. And still, pretty far away from our nearest MA, which is the 50 here on the 4 hour, and 16.3 is basically where it would hit that. As you can see, it's actually used that on a couple times of occasions to maintain support. So here's another example of, okay, we're all good, right? Until the MA50 on the 4 hour loses that support. And if it lost that support, I mean, these are, even though we're spreading out here, there's a trading way that basically anything above the 4 hour on MA200 and the 4 hour, Bitcoin obviously has there's a lot of history with it in the past where it likes to respect that. But we can see we got lots of room before any of that starts happening here. So what I'm trying to say about all this is you want to keep this most recent move here in the overall context of what's been happening here. Now, one thing that is notable is our volume here, okay? We can see, along the way, we have our volume, which equates two things, either our pumps or our buybacks of our dumps. Here's our pump, here's our dump, but arguably that was just a reaccumulation at a little bit of a lower price here. This got bought up so fast. It's got bought up so fast here. And then we have one of our higher clusters now on the 4 hour of volume popping in, retail, if you will. And that basically suggests that, even though a lot of this was buy pressure here, I guarantee you a lot of people were basically taking some off here after we were able to break 18K, especially after breaking 16K like 3 days ago. Okay, so this extra $2,000 that we were able to basically snatch in our bullish hands over the past 2 days, it's just prudent. We can take profits because we're up 80% after the break of 10 grand, and a lot of people, that was kind of their line in the sand. We get back above 10 grand, back above 10.5. Remember that area, 10.5, where it was kind of like that neckline of the inverse head and shoulders and an area of major resistance over forever. I'm sure there was a lot of people that were like, okay, we just did it. We just broke over that 10 to 10.5 area, kind of in this block right here. And the fact that we were able to kind of hold the back test of it. Remember, we had touched a couple toes here at like 9,999, and off we went. So there's a lot of accumulation in this area that at this point, if they had held all the way up or up 70, even 80% in some cases, just, obviously spot, but in that context, especially with a lot of the newer institutions basically buying into Bitcoin here, I think it's hard for anybody to basically not take some off the table in that kind of situation. And because of that, we're seeing a little bit of downward pressure on the price of Bitcoin at these areas here. But as I said, there's nothing yet that's basically saying the bears have mega control at any point. And, we're looking for what's going to be that topping signal. Now, we can go back in tops past, right? And we can see a couple unique characteristics. What are we looking for? Are we looking for a specific candle shape? Okay, are we looking for a specific volume cluster? Clearly, when we get our tops and our bottoms, top, bottom, high volume cluster, high volume cluster, high volume cluster, high volume cluster, and now we're seeing higher volume, but we haven't gotten that, Burj Khalifa kind of a volume candle, where it just goes straight up in the sky here, here, here. These are very clear of the velocity and viscosity of the price action at that time, that marked that very significant turn in the market, whether it be bullish or bearish. So that's one sign that we're still looking for. And now, I guess at this point, we don't necessarily have to see some sort of a extenuation up to here, or even here. We might just get this gradual exhaustive kind of rollover pattern. Even though we hit our top here, we kind of hit it twice. Remember on the daily back in 2007 when we hit it, on the 7th, and then we hit it back on the 18th. Between that and the 18th, that was the $7,000 down and bounce up. So a top isn't just one little moment there. Same as the one back here in June. This was a little more of a defined top, quicker, but even that situation here, we got as high as 13.8 on the 26th, and then a week and a half later, just a couple $100 below that, still established our lower low, and that's also after having a very significant bounce in the price action there. So a top doesn't mean the top and then that's it. It means a top and then a retest always happens. So even though right now we're hitting something of a little bit of wall up here, nothing crazy, but we're hitting something, we can be up in this 17s, 18s, for a while before we get any kind of a true confirmation that the market has indeed turned. And we basically, that's going to take some time. Now, overall here, this consolidation, as I said before, it's still fine. I don't really want to define its characteristics yet. Obviously, we're kind of doing a little equilibrium here. I actually think this might go a little bit longer. I'd be kind of surprised if this kind of falls through on both directions there. Let's see here. What day is it? Thursday. We can check out the weekly. It's funny, even with all our little volatility here, still don't see it too much here in this candle. Yes, we do have this upper wick, and we're going to see how big this actually does get over the next couple days here. This is our biggest candle so far from a weekly standpoint. It could definitely get bigger, but this is also potentially, with 4 days left in the week, from a bearish standpoint, a setup to actually put a significant upper wick on this one. And we know what this guy looked like here, this tremendous red ominous candle, that even with that, we were still able to achieve 2 weeks later to get up almost 70-80% of that candle. So overall, my point is this, that topping patterns, blow off tops, even when they actually happen, it will take some time to figure out if it's exactly what you're seeing in that real time there. I guess the acceleration of anything higher could definitely also signify that as well. What I mean by that is we're so close to our all-time highs here. You can see the wicks here are, just little pieces, just a little hair of the last little bit of FOMO. But the fact that we closed this second week here at 19.3, and then the next week, that was literally our high. So that's kind of it right there. We get above 19.4, and then we're kind of talking about, all right, we're right there. And you can see we're not that far from that at all. Okay, so what's in play? Obviously, breaking all-time highs is in play. Can we wick above it? For sure. Is retail kind of then start to hop into this thing over 20K? I mean, you have to ask yourself, what happens if we do get to all-time high? Is it a second chance to sell Bitcoin at around $20,000? These are things that people are going to be thinking to themselves if they're in that position as a holder of Bitcoin, to consider, Now what do I do? Am I kind of give up the opportunity to sell at 20,000 again, or am I thinking that this is just the beginning and we're kind of basically rocket ship a lot higher here? But we know that every time Bitcoin does do its parabolic moves, along those parabolic moves, there are significant 30 and 40% corrections. Now, as we got higher in the parabola last time, we can see that our corrections were long, a little shorter, a lot shorter, and then even these wicks here were just like intraday. This is the weekly here. So through the week, there were like really tight wicks here. So the higher from a parabola standpoint we get, at this point, I expect our consolidations will be, shorter and shorter if we're going to have that momentum we need to keep pushing us higher right now. And who's gonna continue to purchase Bitcoin, at these levels when we haven't had a major 30 or 40% pullback? So, be very excited about the future of Bitcoin for sure. And even if it can get as high as 19K, but if it goes as high as, all-time highs again, and then takes a 30% correction after that, well, that's just an opportunity for me to buy back in at, right around 14K. Wouldn't I want to do that? I know it's inevitable, right? Because it always happens in the past. Even in the bullish of markets, we still get these major 30 to 40% corrections. Or what if we hit all-time highs and come back 40%? Well, that means I can get Bitcoin at 11K, and that's like, wow, if I'm excited for Bitcoin in the future and everything, but I know at some point it's going to have a major pullback, then I'll just, at these levels here, I'll just wait, and see that maybe it can go higher. And that's the thing. So that's kind of the mentality that Bitcoin will continue to be facing as we go higher and higher. Hold on 1 second here. Sorry about that. It's got a call from Big Chance. Anyways, so, okay. Let's check out the chat room here. So we got SS Swartz, Paul, Tuna Ham, Unicorn, Ru Am I, Sachin, Urami, CY, Crypto House. Yes, that monthly candle will definitely be interesting. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me today. 39 of my closest friends watching me on live show on YouTube. Remember to hit that thumbs up button there. I do appreciate the support. I'm curious about your thoughts on the CME gap 3500. Do you believe that area will be revisited again? So that's a good question, and I think we can definitely take a look at the CME for sure, because I'd say prior to this moment here, we have always used the CME, especially from the weekend into Monday price action, to say, oh, there's a gap up or there's a gap down. And normally you would see that gap get filled before any expansion on the upside or the downside. Now we're in a situation here where we are almost $7,000 away from our nearest 4-hour gap. Actually, I should check to see. So we are here, and I don't see any open gaps. There was one here, got filled here. There was one here, got filled here. So yeah, I don't see anything open on the 4-hour. There's a little guy here, got filled here. More or less until 11K, and going all the way down as was specified by Tunahan, that there are gaps all the way down, even to as low as around the $3,500 area of Bitcoin, and that one was created back here, February of 2019. So we have these gaps in the 4-hour chart, and the reason I bring this up specifically has a lot to do with the only open gap and the longest open gap that stayed open on the 4-hour was back here, January of 2018 at 13,850, and it literally, basically within $100 or so, marked the top of our 2019 bull market, whereas when that gap was filled, that literally was the top of this parabola here, and um, that was very impressive. I really took note of that and felt that because gaps take time, and this gap here took 526 days, you know, year and a half, right? So instead of curiosity, so that's our thing there. Now, that gap took 526 days. So for now, we are date range. We are 650 days away from the oldest gap, which was that one at $3,500. We are only 215 days away from the next oldest gap, which is at $7,600 here. So you can see that I do believe the 4-hour chart on the CME gaps are important, but you can also see that time is irrelevant, that it can take a very long time, over a year, right, to fill open gaps in the chart. Now, can Bitcoin get down to $3,500? And in what context would Bitcoin be getting down to $3,500? Well, that would have to go through another bear market where it failed all these supports once again and was basically putting in lower lows from our most recent lows of Bitcoin's price action. In what context in our society, would we be seeing a dying Bitcoin in that context? Maybe not dying, but I mean, that's a tremendous pullback there. But remember, in Bitcoin's history, we've had several 70 and 80% and even 90% bear market corrections, right? That have happened, and that basically would, from right where we are right now, that's an 80% correction. That's 14. That's right there. That fills the gap, and you're saying, wow, an 80% correction is ridiculous, but of course that's what we had, there, and this last one here was not as only 70%. Okay, so you think it can't happen, but it's happened a couple times, and we know what happens afterwards, right? But we sure know what happens after the afterwards. Every time we do have a parabolic move, we retrace significantly. Now, is this parabolic move that we're seeing right now in Bitcoin? Is this the beginning? Is this the beginning of this kind of a context here of a much larger move that Bitcoin is basically putting in? Where are we doing something where we're about to break above all-time high, like we did in 2015, and by doing so, 2017, sorry, by doing so here, then the freaking parabola just went nuts, right? So last time we broke all-time high, or we touched it, came very close, came back, broke it, came back. Just out of curiosity, the pullback, how much higher do we get? 11, 1200, 1300. So we got a couple $100. So another 15 or so percent above the previous all-time high. So that would be another, so maybe we'd get to $22,000. And then we had basically a 30% pullback on that move there. And about 13%. So about 20. So about so about $22,000. So basically, what is 30% off of $22,000 Bitcoin? Right here, and 30% puts us right above $15,000. So again, even if we're kind of break through 20K and get back to and then do have some sort of a pullback, that would still give you an opportunity to buy at 15K, which is still $3,000 lower than where it currently is now. So things to consider, you know, if you want to know what I really think, and this is just between you and me, okay, guys? I don't, when this ends, and what I mean by ends is when we have a correction of more than 20% that's sustained. And that basically confirms, let's say that, well, it's hard to say, as I said earlier, it's hard to say when we can confirm the parabola is over. But let's just say we get a notable rejection of some sort in the near future. And either consolidation or potentially we drop lower than we are expecting. You have to ask yourself, do we just do another one of these blow off tops in which once again we are reverting back to the mean, which we've seen so many times, which every time we do this we basically give it all back and then some, or at least need to establish a new base of support before moving forward. It's very hard for me in the context of the world now to see how we keep not just rising in the price of Bitcoin, but exponentially rising and then sustaining that over a longer period of time. Even with all the bullish hype, even with all the institutional investors buying and loading into Bitcoin, you know, that's something that you can surely add to the bullish case that we've been talking about for years, right? When CME futures and when BOCT happens and when institutions and when you can buy Bitcoin. And yes, the PayPal thing was a big thing, and the other ones, and you know, being able to more easily buy crypto is definitely something that is a positive in the space, that they're making it easier to do so, right? The technology about it needs to be a lot more user friendly in terms of you know, truly understanding how the whole thing works, and making sure, you know, people aren't screwing up their wallet addresses, or, you know, sending wrong tokens to the wrong wallet, and then also understanding you know, the differentiation between every coin. Just because it's an altcoin, each one has its own unique, it's called a narrative to it. So its valuations can change drastically coin to coin. You know, the path of Link, for instance, and the path of Litecoin, and the path of Ripple, and then the path of some of the new ones like Uni and Dot. You know, they all have very different stories, very different, if you will, share structure in terms of how many coins are available, and can't be looked at as just, you know, Bitcoin and then everything else is just the same kind of basket of goodies. So I want to touch base on a couple more things. Guys, if you're enjoying my content, please hit that thumbs up button. Tell your friends, hit that subscribe channel. A big Chonis. I've been in the space for over 4 years. Bought my first Bitcoin in 2016. I've been doing YouTube shows on and off for the past 3 or 4 years. And follow me on Twitter as well. I'm at Big Chonis. And I took a little hiatus over the past couple months. I've been focusing kind of on other things. Trading a lot of stocks, actually. You know, the stock market was just too tempting over the past several months not to get involved in it. And it's had its hits and misses. I can definitely talk about that in later broadcast here, but definitely crypto is fascinating. What's happening right now with Bitcoin, and the just interesting how we're seeing everything from divergences, money flowing into Bitcoin. Some of it's flowing into altcoins, but as you can see, Bitcoin's dominance, which I don't have here. I want this one, yeah. Is, whoa, 67%. I knew it. So The daily's got some messed up data on it, but I know that the lower time frames work. Yeah, let's at dominance 67. So Bitcoin pumps over 18K. Dominance continues to increase. Little pullback here, and alt's kind of still taking it on the chin here. Decent pullbacks from, let's call it, yesterday's highs. Now, not tremendous on the pullback here. We can start with Ethereum. You know, even though we were this last night, yeah. Oh yes, we were doing this back test here of this line of support that we were holding, and I've seen this pattern so many times. I got to expand that here, where we're having a nice line here. We break down, and then we kind of wend our way and we touch the underside of this line of support. Got rejected. There was our high wick above, and then that other rejection. So this was a clear bull trap here. When we were able to get above this line, things were looking good. We were kind of close above it, and then we just poop. So this is still the more bullish ascent angle, and it's still being held down, but overall we're just consolidating still, right? I mean, this kind of gets more or less transformed into just kind of a flagging pattern at this point, where we're, or even a channel, if you will, where we're just kind of holding a parallel, you know, but we're still putting in higher lows and higher highs. And it's hard for me to be very bearish on ETH at this moment here, even with this consistent pullback. What would start to, I mean, you know, frankly, at this point, anything, now that we've had this nice bounce here twice from 440s, like anything above, I'd say if 450s, 455, if we start to lose this area here, that would be very worrisome, because I wouldn't want to, I basically wouldn't expect another touch in this area, since we've had a nice hold bounce of it a third time down there, which is, you know, the 440s. I'd be surprised if that held. And really there's no that also represents back here that area of resistance, turn support, and then fail to hold there. So 440 and then 420 would be your next area of support there. But we don't have to bring these into context at all until you know, we start losing you know, the 460 area or so, which had kind of been a major resistance, support, resistance, and then we regained it, and then we bounced very nice, you know, off that 455 to 460 area. Let's take a look at Link. I think somebody asked about that. You know, I'll look at the BTC appearing. You know, all along basically, and this is important. You know, the we look at the USDs, and I'll actually, now that I think about it, I'll look at, actually, okay, I'll look at the BTC in just a moment here. But, you know, at this point, we really have to start to focus on the BTC pairings, because with Bitcoin so bullish right now, of course, it's going to bring up more or less the dollar value of the altcoins. But what we're really wanting to analyze is, are we seeing any alt pairings bullishly diverging, you know, from Bitcoin here? So we can see Link is, you know, has had a nice pop over the past week or so, and we are kind of consolidating here. But like all the other altcoins as well, it's still in a bearish pattern here. I mean, this is a triangle here after a breakdown, which normally represents continuation, you know. So what we want to see is some sort of a bullish divergence here on Link, where we can bullishly break out of this triangle with some green dildo, and that will basically mean one of two things: that Bitcoin is kind of ranging, and the alts are starting to get money flow coming into them, and that's what that would definitely represent. But for now, this chart and very many just like it do not represent a very bullish structure in the price action here. Let me go back to ETH. I know a lot of people were talking about the ETH BTC, and you know, look, once again, even though we had this tremendous move with ETH over last month's price action, this is what I mean by like the bullish divergence. The fact that we've put in now a lower low, okay, and we're consolidating with this lower low, that's not good either. And that lower low is only, resting in this area because of where it is currently from a historic standpoint here. So this doesn't look good as a chart as well. You can see how different this looked back here in July in relation to Bitcoin versus where it is now. Now Bitcoin stalls out. Bitcoin finds resistance, or at least Bitcoin can find a nice range for a while. Then people will be a little more comfortable putting money in altcoins, or we'll kind of see something like this turn around. But for now, we're not seeing that. And if Bitcoin bleeds or even falls, it'd be hard to see how it's not going to affect, the entire market overall. Let's check out the corn right now and see what we're doing. Let's go to the half hour. So yeah, I mean, this is tricky here because we've had basically a whipsaw, which is if you're in like a higher leverage trade, these are just scalps here. It would be too tough to hold with these kind of moves here. You'd be leaving too much money on the table that could be instantly poofed if you're on the right side of the trade. If you were short here, you wouldn't want to be short here and then basically hold all the way through this. And you wouldn't want to be long here and then hold all the way through this here. So the consolidation does continue. Doesn't look that great, but until we start to lose these, now we have two areas here. We have basically the low 17Ks, which we've had two bounces on here. That's where we want to basically hold up. A lot of our bounces have definitely been front ran. Okay, so we can kind of then stair step ourselves back down to see where the nearest areas of supports here, 16.8, 16.4, 15.9. These were areas where we had found resistance, turn in support, back test and accelerate, resistance, back test, accelerate, and so on and so forth. So because we're so high, we have so much running room, overall in play, and that's basically what we're experiencing here as well. Take a look at Litecoin here. I did talk about this on I tweeted this as well, and just bottom line, here's our triangle. This is the USD pair, but here's our triangle. Okay, at this point here, it's logical to see how this can continue up here. I do know a lot of this recent pump has been because it was put on PayPal as a crypto you can buy, and people see it as a lot cheaper, just like the kind of effect it had on Coinbase when Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin were the only three, and Litecoin was just the cheaper one. So it had a nice base of early adopters because it was just cheaper than Ethereum, which frankly at the time was also around $400. But then Bitcoin was at like $1,200, so a little different from now. And then the BTC pairing here. This is a little better than the link in the ETH chart we were looking at there. We can see we've been having a double tap of support here and a nice bounce. We've kind of given some of that back. But overall, we know where our support is here. And as long as we can hold that area, I can definitely see Litecoin continuing to advance. In terms of the fact that any pullbacks should be sustained, where you would see Litecoin, from a USD standpoint, holding in the 60s versus where it used to go to 50 and consolidate back to 40 or the high 30s. Would get to 60, go back to 40. Now I would expect any kind of major consolidation to hold up in the low 60s or high 50s at the minimum, or the maximum drawdown. So this is a better one here, like the support, and we have a nice range now of where meaningful support is and our nearest meaningful resistance way up here. So what do we got here? About 40 minutes here, guys. I do my my trading here through BingBon exchange. They get Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Link, Litecoin, EOS, TRX, BSV, ADA, XTZ, DOT, Unifil, and they're adding a bunch more as well. You can also do other stuff like oil, gold, commodities, the Dow, and the NASDAQ. I'm mostly just scalping because these are just we're getting the volatility now, so there were so many good opportunities the past couple days with decent quick moves, even though we've had a steady uptrend kind of the whole way up. But these pullbacks here are beginning to get a little more meaningful, so it'd be hard to kind of keep the trades in play without taking some major profits. If you've been in Ripple on the way up here over 30, decent pullback so far on the day here. So profits have been taking in some of these altcoins that have been on a very decent kick over the past couple days here, and I'll continue to do that. I do have my affiliate link in the information here and on my pinned tweet, which has my invite code as well. And in the future shows, I'll be talking more about how I use this to trade and some kind of tricks and stuff I like to use when I'm scalping and whatnot. So one last look at Bitcoin here, hovering around 17.7. Still got 4 hours left to our daily candle. What a freaking doji this guy is, long-legged doji. As Big Cheds would remind me, it can only be a doji as long as the candle body is super duper skinny, and I think this does qualify as that. No more than 5% of the entire mass of the wicks here. So very interesting candle here at top of a trend here that can be denoted a reversal candle, something similar to this guy right here. But until we fall through those levels I mapped out early in the show, the bulls do have control here, but we definitely could see a little resistance here. And again, all eyes on the stock market. It's the one, as long as they can kind of keep moving forward and keep the bullish stance in the Dow and Nasdaq and S&P, then it's hard to see how crypto doesn't continue to follow suit. So with that, it's Big Chonis here. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Maybe I'll do a show later, but probably tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Remember, Bitcoin is forever. Don't have to do it all in one day. It's a marathon. It's more than a marathon. It's a decathlon. It's not a sprint. Practice proper risk management and stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Big Chonis. Peace. Hit that thumbs up button. Peace.